Salute. My amplified unit. Salute. Hard to believe SummerSlam has come and gone, but there's no time to pump those brakes because in just 24 nights, it's Bash in Berlin. Got to keep up with this WWE pay-per-view schedule. PLEs, they call them. 2 within 28 days. It's going to be hard to top SummerSlam. I'm telling you right now, man. SummerSlam was a grand slam. I don't know how you can top that. It looks like they're going to throw some random matches up. Like send SmackDown's Randy Orton over to Raw, take on Gunther, just to do a quick little job, right? Randy Orton is there just to look up at the lights. I would not be shocked if this is a straight, clean 1-2-3 victory. Orton's just going to do the job. And then we'll see how they fill out the card over the next few weeks. There's no real cold open to this upload. I have a lot of news to dish out to you guys, so I just want to kind of rapid fire each one. Spend a minute or two on the topic, the actual news, my thoughts on it, and then on to the next. So that sounds pretty good, right? No reason for a cold open. There's just too many stories. Let's jump into it. Let me get a swig. We'll jump into it. We're going to start with Joe Hendry. This is an interesting, right? NXT was last night, so we might as well talk some Joe Hendry because something is just not adding up here. And I'm starting to feel like TNA, I know, BC, you're just now realizing this, but I'm starting to feel like TNA is getting taken advantage of. So at first I was totally down with this WWE TNA relationship, right? Everybody benefits, I feel. The fans for sure. We get to see these wrestlers cross-promote. These ones showing up to that company stars over to this company. Pretty cool. WWE clearly benefits. They get wrestlers like Jordynne Grace gracing their television programs. Just picture matches like Jordynne Grace and Roxy, for instance, right? Where do we sign up? Joe Hendry and the value he can bring to WWE, especially NXT. And TNA wins because after all these years, they still haven't made it to that next level. There's been many times where they were almost there. But everybody just looks at TNA like a third fiddle. Or just they're the third wheel, right? And they've never gotten the proper respect that I'm pretty sure they feel they have earned. So at least this relationship gives them that acknowledgement. Everybody wins, right? A little promotion. People are talking more about TNA. That's the hope. So everybody wins, right? BC's been pretty high on this. And again, we got to see Jordynne Grace and now Joe Hendry. But at what point does TNA go, hold up? This is no longer really benefiting us as much as it is for you. Now, I know you say, well, BC, WWE's taking the bigger risk. They don't have to do this. They're already the big mega machine. TNA is that third wheel. They don't have to do this. They're taking the bigger risk, so they need the bigger reward. I totally get it, and they're getting it, right? Jordynne Grace, Joe Hendry, their biggest stars showcased on NXT. But I'm starting to feel like TNA is getting absolutely nothing. Like Paxley showing up to TNA. That clearly did not do anything numbers-wise. That didn't just move the needle. It didn't make anybody even twitch to the left to watch TNA. You got to give him more than Paxley. Jordynne Grace, Joe Hendry, Paxley? And then this past Tuesday on NXT television, and I didn't get to see the show, but this is what I heard, is that Joe Hendry defeated Joe Coffey. No Coffey should be losing, but it's Joe Hendry, so we're willing to look past that. Joe Hendry wins this matchup. And afterwards, this was the newsworthy bit. Because afterwards, he says, I like it around here. I'm going to be back next week, he says. He's showing back up to NXT next week. And then word is that he is staying in NXT, pretty much. He has a lot more he's doing, and he confirmed that he does work out at the Performance Center. For all intents and purposes, he's a WWE superstar. He's an NXT talent at this point, just being paid by TNA. At what point does TNA, or do they, at what point did they say, hold on, we got to pump the brakes here? all right, we let this get out of hand. Like, this is our dude, man. Like, we're not getting anything. The numbers didn't spike. People aren't really talking about us as much. It's just about, okay, this person just debuted in NXT. They're getting all the acknowledgement. They're getting all the talk. I'm starting to feel like it's no longer benefiting TNA. And again, you might say, BC, you're just realizing that? Yes, because up until this point, I still felt like just talking about TNA and NXT in the same realm, in the same breath, was benefiting TNA. I absolutely felt that way. That type of publicity. And if TNA has wrestlers that WWE wants to utilize and they're going to bring up your name, pretty cool. But if it's clear that it's not really doing anything, and it's clear that you're not getting half of what you're giving them, at what point are you going to go, hold on, we kind of want Joe Hendry back? Like, if he gets injured in any of these NXT matches, that affects TNA. Right? They're giving them their talent. This is going to put wear and tear on them. And you know these talents want to give their all for NXT WWE's product. So just in the realm of their performance, right? You're chalking up all these performances, you're giving them to WWE. That's heavily affecting them outright. Now everybody's looking at them as WWE talent. It's clear when their contracts come up. It's clear they're going to WWE, right? Joe Hendry is going to become this massive star now. NXT, WWE is not going to not sign him. Is Joe Hendry really, when this relationship comes to a close, if it does, is he just going to go, I'm going to stick with TNA. Thanks, guys. Could be, possibly. But you got to think Jordan Grace, Joe Hendry, I mean, they're going to graduate almost. They're going to graduate over to the bigger league. So I'm starting to see so many reasons as to why this is no longer sustainable. You got a little bit of publicity, great. At this point, I think I would take my wrestlers back and just go, all right, now, if you want to see these wrestlers, watch TNA. You got nothing to lose. There's nothing, it's not that big of a change. Whether you have a relationship with WWE's NXT or you don't, the numbers are showing us that. So that's wild that Joe Hendry basically has a key to the kingdom of WWE. He's a part of the Performance Center. He's basically a part of NXT, but TNA is paying him. So TNA is paying him and giving him to WWE. And they're hoping that they just get mentioned in the same breath as WWE. I don't know, man. Again, we don't know all the details. It's just some conversation stemming off of the news that Joe Hendry is staying in NXT. He just said that. And we have the reports that he confirmed he does work out. He's always at the Performance Center. I mean, these talents are basically WWE's NXT talent now. So that's the news part of it. And then the discussion part is, does TNA eventually have to pull this plug? Because I'm not seeing the benefit anymore. In fact, you're just giving them a lot of your best talent. And I just hope they don't get injured. And then you're paying them and they got injured and it wasn't even on your show. I don't know, man. It's gotten a little. I thought TNA was going to get a lot more. It's clear WWE absolutely. WWE gave them a pile driver business-wise. WWE just absolutely spanked them. They had them on the ropes going, you want to do business with us because we're WWE, or take it or leave it, basically. And TNA was like, all right, we'll take it. And they got absolutely the crap end of the deal. I am seeing nothing but the mention of TNA with WWE. And that's, I'm not going to act like I'm this big TNA fan that I watch every single week. I don't, but I want to see them succeed, right? I want every company to succeed, but I want the fairness of a deal to be implicated. And I guess it is. I guess WWE never really offered anything more than this. And TNA was just so anxious to just start really climbing that ladder again. Maybe this will get us up to like even in the conversation of the NXT talk, then maybe people will look at us right up there with AEW. That was their hope. So far, it's not panning out. So does TNA now go to WWE, go to Hunter Hearst Helmsley and Shawn Michaels and say, hey, can we restructure this a little bit? Like, can we get some of your bigger talent? We really want to make a splash. And if they say no, then there you go. They just showed their true colors, man. This is all about them. And knowing that it wasn't going to budge their numbers at all. It's almost like this will benefit us. You'll stay the same. And it's just about how long before you finally realize that. Anyway, that's the conversation I wanted to open up with. Joe Hendry, big victory on NXT from what I'm hearing. And then the post-match interview was even more telling. He is staying in NXT. But don't get it twisted. He is still under contract with TNA. Let's switch over to some AEW, if you don't mind. This is Britt Baker. We'll start with her and the locker room drama. And now some big news for Britt Baker as well. And Tony Khan opening up, giving us some details on the Shane McMahon meeting. So do you want to start with Tony Khan? Let's do that. So Tony Khan, right, because Shane McMahon kind of sent a statement out first about the meeting. And Shane McMahon was totally truthful. He said, yeah, most of that talk was about the business. It was business. Used that exact word. In fact, he used the word meeting, right? Yes, we had a meeting. So he didn't we bumped into one another and we asked if we could occupy the airport lobby, or the meeting room. And no, he said it was a meeting. So Shane McMahon was very outright truthful in his statement, and Tony Khan elaborated more, gave more vivid details. Tony Khan confirms this is a quote, many individuals told him Shane wanted to talk with him. Or Shane was showing interest and wanted to talk. Literally, many individuals came up to Tony Khan. This collaborates all the reports we were hearing. That many wrestlers, right? Shane was sending out feelers. That's what it's called in the business, right? Shane was talking to all these people. Mercedes was no doubt one of them, but just one of them. He was sending out all these feelers, and Tony Khan does confirm many individuals came up to him and said Shane wants to talk. And he says he had never met with Shane beforehand, but they had a really good talk, a lot about the business. He says it was pretty cool just knowing all of the knowledge he has in the business and how they share the same interest and love of pro wrestling. And they both said the same thing. Like, most of that talk was the business, right? And it was a meeting that was set up, and Shane McMahon had told many people he would like to talk with Tony. He didn't tell all these people he wants to have a meeting with Tony to get together and just like, hey, how's the fam, right? How's the Jaguars? Yeah, what type of coffee you like? Yeah, I like Dunkin' too, Folgers. Yeah. Anyway, thanks for meeting with me, man. I gotta catch the next flight. No, man. What do you guys think this is? This is all business, man. Some people think he's just trying to bait WWE into giving him a better deal, Shane. Because he wanted to come back, and Hunter Hearst Helmsley was like, oh, we just don't have anything. I don't believe that's the case, man. Shane McMahon never really saw eye to eye with Hunter Hearst Helmsley. He always kind of had some bickering with his own sister, Stephanie, and he's always butted heads with Vincent Kennedy McMahon, the old pops. So I don't know if he needs to have his last match be in WWE, where his boss is his brother-in-law, who he never saw eye to eye with anyway. I think he really wants to see if there's an avenue where he can make a splash in AEW. His kids love watching him get in that ring. He loves to do this. He doesn't need to. He's a multi-millionaire. But he loves to get in there and just... I always like Shane McMahon. You guys know that. So if you're telling me Shane is occupying 10 or 15 minutes on a Dynamite, it's not the end of the world for BC. I know it is for a lot of you. It's supposed to be the alternative. It's not what AEW is about. All the younger kids should be getting that TV time. There's so many talents in AEW that are not getting TV time that if you really think Shane McMahon is the one that's going to break the wheel indefinitely, I don't know what to tell you. Shane is ultra fun to watch because you never know what he's going to do. He brings that believability, that realism. I like Shane. I respect the fact if you don't. I respect the fact that over the years you've seen him win best in the world tournaments or take up WrestleMania spots. And maybe that is the eye of the ire that is drawn out of you for Shane McMahon. Possibly. I just know that if Shane McMahon is in a segment, I don't care how I have to find it. I'm grabbing that remote and I am going to that channel and I'm watching Shane McMahon do whatever he's doing. WWE, TNA, AEW, local bingo hall. I'm watching Shane McMahon. So I doubt very much BC's the only one. So I respect the fact if you don't like Shane or you don't want to watch, but something tells me you still would absolutely tune in if you knew Shane was on TV. Something tells me, even if you don't like Shane, you'd have to watch. Shane McMahon does that, and he's proven that, by the way. A Shane McMahon segment, on average, a Shane McMahon segment brought the ratings up 19%. That is his average. That's astronomical. Most wrestlers, and I mean at least 95%, that is a bare minimum, cannot get a 19% bump in rating. Shane McMahon has throughout his career. And I know that sporadically, by the way, so you can't totally put that up with a roster member that would have anything more than 100 matches a year. I get it. Or 50, it's 2024. Not many are having 100 anymore. But that's huge. So no matter what the reasoning is, he had the talk. Tony and Shane have had a talk majorly about the business. Anybody that thinks this can't come to fruition, all it takes is one more meeting, honestly, because if you get that second meeting, it's like a job interview or something along the same lines where if you get a callback, we'll call it, right? A callback means they were already interested. Now we just have to let's get everything straightened out, our ducks in a row. And then that third meeting is just dotting the I's, crossing the T's. So if we hear that there's a second meeting, Shane McMahon's in AEW, guys. So it's absolutely possible, but Tony Khan has confirmed what Shane McMahon had already confirmed anyway. And I think the best part is he actually talked about how the picture was taken. He said a fan just came in and snapped a picture and he didn't mind. Tony Khan probably loved it, right? He's like, oh, this is going to blow up. This is great. I'm in there with WWE Shane McMahon. So Tony's just looking like, what's up? He's sitting having a coffee. Shane McMahon's looking like, what are you doing? Get out. Shane didn't look too happy. But it looked like security footage, right? Like one of you guys, one of my subscribers actually said it looked like a TSA or somebody would come in with like a security cam that would be like on the chest, because it was kind of like that. So it could have been a security/fan. But Tony didn't seem like he minded at all, and I think Shane was perturbed. That's why, like, within a couple of days, Shane sent out that statement. I don't think he was too pleased about that. But Shane was he was forthright. He talked about what the meeting was about, business. Tony Khan confirms it, and we'll see if there's a second one. Now, staying along the lines of AEW, Brittany Baker. First of all, Brittany Baker landed a role on Cobra Kai's. I don't think she's going to be Miyagi though. I think Cobra Kai is going to be her team, but she's going to be in the, what is it? I'm going to botch it, man. Taikai? I don't know what it was, man. Taikai. Something along those lines. If you follow the series, you know what I'm talking about. But, and Tori just joined Kreese's Cobra Kai. So Tori's going to be that Tori versus Sam fight is going to be massive. Anyway, Britt Baker is going to be in that tournament, man. She landed a role. That's what we're hearing anyway. The first 5 episodes of the 6th and final season have already aired. The next 5, which will be the last 5 of the series, that's airing in November, and we're hearing that Brittany Baker is supposed to be a part of it. We'll see. We'll see if it's a minor little part or a bigger role, but still be cool to see Brittany Baker in there. Now, Britt Baker, man, catching a lot of heat as of late. That locker room drama, and you guys know what I'm talking about. If you don't, if you've been living underneath a rock, not a Dwayne Johnson, but a legit rock, then I'll tell you what it is. I guess there was that 58, 59-minute match with MJF recently. In the locker room, Britt Baker was, I guess, talking a lot of trash about MJF and Ospreay, I believe. Both. And Alicia Atout, who I don't even, this was like just a interviewer on like YouTube. And then she like decided to try to get into wrestling itself. And then she started dating MJF, and now she's in those AEW locker rooms. Alicia Tout overheard it or something like that. Her and Britt Baker got into a little scuffle, and then a Tout told MJF. MJF storms into the women's locker, is the way the story goes, guys. That was the initial report. MJF went into the locker room, even punched like the wall or something. And then some reports are like it wasn't exactly like that, but MJF was not happy with Britt Baker. And then Britt Baker ended up getting suspended when it was all said and done. Not MJF, not for going into the women's locker, nothing like that. They conducted an internal investigation. One of the heads is Bryan Danielson of that committee, by the way. Same committee that gave CM Punk a Das Boot. But so Brittany Baker got suspended, not MJF. And now more details are kind of coming out where a lot of people were pissed off at Baker. And first it was a Tout and Baker, and then MJF stormed in, and Ospreay wasn't even pleased with Baker. All of these things. And this is off the heels of a lot of people thinking that Adam Cole and Britt Baker had separated. Because recently Adam Cole said he was moving to Pennsylvania by himself. But again, both he and Baker are from Pennsylvania, so maybe they were just moving back to their home state. And Baker had some things to tie up because she does have her practice in Florida. And maybe Adam Cole has to do this move on his own, but Baker's going to join him later. Right? That's a possibility. But then Brittany Baker would have to take her whole practice, which is situated in Florida, and relocate it to Pennsylvania. So that's kind of odd. So a lot of people, and then Adam Cole never, not that he needs to, but when a lot of speculation like, whoa, what do you mean by yourself? Is everything good with you and Baker? He never really added on to that. He never gave any clarification. So a lot of people thought that they had separated, but then there's some other things that people are like, no, there's a reference here of Baker for Adam Cole, and she had mentioned Adam Cole recently here. But the point is that was coming off the heels of that. Then you have the locker room drama and the suspension. So Baker's taking a lot of heat, and Baker recently posted up, don't you love hearing stories about you that aren't true, but you're kind of like, what happens next? I'm kind of curious now. So Baker basically said most of what you're hearing, there's so much more detail you don't even know. And probably like a lot of it's not even accurate. But she's like, it's so damn good gossip-wise. I'm itching. What's next? So that was Baker's response to all the locker room drama. But it does, guys, from what we're hearing reputably, is that she was actually suspended. Like, most of that is actually accurate. That did happen, and there is some type of beef with MJF, a Tout, maybe even Ospreay. I can't confirm that, but there was an altercation maybe they made up. But MJF wasn't too happy with Britt Baker, and that's an issue because those are your two top homegrown talents, right? Or two of the top. MJF, Britt Baker from the very beginning. One of them you could easily say is one of the heads of the women's locker room, and the other one of the heads of the men's locker room. And if they're not seeing eye to eye, that could be a very rough locker room for AEW. And coming off the heels of CM Punk, who was not happy in that locker room, and there was a lot of drama with CM Punk, they finally get over that. They do not want an MJF Brittany Baker feud going on because everybody's going to start picking sides, and it's going to be like a high school corridor, right? It's going to be like a high school hallway. That's going to be the locker room of AEW, and they've seen enough of that over the last 5 years. Ooh, man. Good conversation, man. This is probably going to be like an hour long, man. I'm giving you the news, but I got a lot of coffee flowing, so I got a lot of thoughts on these subjects. Let's go back to NXT. This is good. A lot of TNA, a lot of AEW, and now NXT news. It's good once in a while to step away from just sheer WWE. NXT's debut on the CW, October 1st. Guys, that's like a little over a month and a half away, man. That's hard to even conceive that notion. October 1st is around the corner. Where'd summer go? Anyway, that's another story. NXT is not only debuting on CW October 1st, but they are giving themselves Das Boot out of Orlando. They're hitting the road for at least a few weeks when they make the move over the CW. I think that is brilliant. You really want to make a splash. You want to make this feel special. The only way you can make it feel special is if it looks special. Perception is reality, and that is a huge decision to move it out of Orlando, at least for the start. And if it goes well, you'll see more of it. But not only are they debuting CW October 1st, not only are they giving themselves Das Boot out of Orlando, they are going to stack the card for October 1st and probably those first few weeks. So main roster talent going to NXT. They've already confirmed CM Punk October 1st, guys. So you're already starting to see it. And if you think it's going to stop there, absolutely not. The following week, the second week on CW, they're going head-to-head with AEW. AEW is being booted October 8th for the Major League Baseball playoffs. So they will be in the same exact time slot on Tuesday night up against head-to-head NXT. And the last time that happened, Paul Levesque McMahon, Hunter Hearst Helmsley made sure he sent Shawn Michaels the Cavalry, a plethora of WWE main roster talent. And because of that, they were able to defeat NXT. Tony Khan's going to be looking to bring his very best. Hunter Hearst Helmsley is going to give Shawn Michaels his very best. We're going to see who wins this one, man. It's going to be fun. They're both going to go head-to-head, and they want to win the night. And by the way, for AEW, that is the go-home show to Wrestle Dream, I believe. So that's a go-home show for AEW. So, massive news for NXT's debut on CW. They're going on the road, and they are sending in the cavalry already. They have announced CM Punk will be there, and that is not going to be the end of the announcements. You're going to see a plethora of main roster. I wouldn't doubt if you see Cody Rhodes. Maybe Kevin Owens shows up. It's going to be huge, man. Can Tony Khan fight back? Can he deliver a punch right back? That's going to be stiff enough. We'll see. Where do you guys want to go, man? There's so much more that I don't think I'm going to get all these stories in, but I'll try to get a bunch more. Do you want to go WWE? You know what? Real quick, AEW. I want to talk about some talents that could be going to WWE. In fact, AEW believes that some of their big talents are actually WWE bound. Hold on, we'll talk about it. Let me just switch, because this is massive. So AEW believes that the Lucha Bros are leaving AEW and they will be joining WWE, the Lucha Bros. And on top of that, they also believe that Ricky Starks is joining WWE. The latter, there's no question. Good friends with WWE's Cody Rhodes. Really good friends. He's already been at WWE. Was it Rumble or was it Mania? But Ricky Starks, and unfortunately security footage saw Ricky Starks entering with Cody WWE, and that was a big story. A lot of AEW officials were pissed off at that, but he was just supporting his friend. But it was confirmed he had a lot of big talks with a lot of top executives, and ever since, it's never been the same with Starks and AEW. Starks has alluded many times to basically working with Cody and going to WWE. I think that's pretty obvious, I feel. And the report we're getting is that AEW wanted Starks to go full throttle heel, or face, I should say. Correct. And he did not want to. And because of that, there was more kind of tension between the two sides. And then they decided just not to use him. So that's where they stand. That's why you're not really seeing Ricky Starks. They're saying they got nothing for him, and it's because they know he's WWE bound. Also, the Lucha Bros caught a lot of people by surprise, but a lot of people within AEW feel they're going to WWE. I don't know. With the Lucha Bros, are they going to have something for them? If not, it's going to fall to the wayside, guys. It's not going to be, because the WWE audience doesn't really care about your 5 or 6 star bangers, if you will. They don't. You got to have that storyline behind it. They have to be connected to the characters, right? Be captivated. And as much respect we have for the wrestling abilities of the Lucha Bros, in WWE, we've seen too many superstars fall to the wayside because they're just not utilized right. I mean, Shinsuke Nakamura, criminally used. To this point, Andrade and Santos Escobar as well. Are you bringing the Lucha Bros in? Are you going to chuck them in an LWO? Are you going to chuck them in an LDF? Are you going to bring back Los Boricuas? What are we going to do with them, though? Because if you're just going to just patent the roster even more, eventually that ship that is going to be so filled with all these talents and you're not doing anything with them, that ship will eventually sink. There's too much weight. So we respect the Lucha Bros, but man, I hope there's like an actual plan for them. Like we're bringing them in with reason and with purpose, with amplification. Or are you just bringing them in to take them away from AEW? So it's Ricky Starks, I totally can see. Lucha Bros is like, what? It's not the talent. I get they have talent. But what? You don't have a tag division, right? If WWE had a legit tag division, and that's wild to say, because they have 2 sets of tag titles. 2 tag titles, not even counting the women's. 2, and they don't have a division. The division is irrelevant to non-existent. It's sad to say that. Every single title holder that won it at Mania, they don't have it. Tag titles anyway. Or Bianca and Jade, you guys told me in yesterday's live stream, they won it afterwards. I believe Backlash, correct? And then just a month or 2 later, if even, in Scotland, they lost it to Alba and Isla. But for the dudes, I mean, Waller and Theory won it just a few months ago at Mania. They've already dropped it a while back to DIY. And DIY has even dropped it. They dropped it recently to Bloodline. So you've had 3 separate title holders with those 1 sets of tag titles in the last 3 to 4 months. That's actually 3 different teams have held the title within the last month, right? DIY had it for 28 days and just lost it Friday. So basically Waller and Theory had it. DIY won it to 28 to 35 days ago. And then this Friday, Bloodline won it. And the other sets of tag titles, Miz and R-Truth won it. They barely defended it. They barely wrestled. And then a couple months later, they just lost it to Judgment Day. So, and none of it was relevant. None of these teams made it to the next level. They didn't make the title reigns fun. They barely defended the titles, right? DIY defended it 1 time in those 28 days. That long, prestigious 28-day title reign. Miz and R-Truth maybe had 2 title defenses. Maybe. There's no tag division, and you're bringing in the Lucha Bros. So, again, I'm just saying, that, you want to be joyous. Well, the Lucha Bros, WWE. But hold up. How many talents are we kind of like, oh, that's going to be huge? And all of a sudden, it's like, wow, they're not even being used. Or they're being criminally misused. But that's what we're hearing, guys. AEW believes Lucha Bros and Ricky Starks, WWE bound, when their contracts expire. Liv Morgan, this is a quick little story. Liv Morgan has signed with Paradigm, we are hearing, joining Tiffany Stratton. So if Liv Morgan gets some big offers, you could also see Liv Morgan's WWE pro wrestling career end much shorter than we had imagined, right? We already think that's going to be the case, unfortunately, for Tiffany Stratton. But Liv Morgan looks to have bigger aspirations beyond pro wrestling. I think this good storyline that she's been in with Judgment Day, she's thinking, hey, I'm a good actress. When I walked away on Raw with those tears, man, this could be something. So she signed on with Paradigm. Good for Liv Morgan, but we hope we get to see her a lot more in pro wrestling before she does decide to move on permanently with other endeavors. Where do we want to go next, man? Undertaker recently catching heat for saying just simple words. Logan Paul made the U.S. title relevant again. That was the Undertaker, Mark Calloway's words. I know, you laugh a little bit, right? Undertaker, I'll say it again. Undertaker catching heat for saying that Logan Paul made the U.S. title relevant again. Now, I know why we're all going to laugh at that, right? Logan Paul defended it twice. And what'd he say? 273 days, basically 9 months. 2 title defenses. Barely showed up on SmackDown. And that's relevancy, right? A lot of fans are like, that's the opposite. Where was he? Where was the title? But on the flip, I think what Undertaker is trying to say is when he was on the show, when there was those matchups, when there was mention of Logan Paul, there was a buzz. And whether you like Paul or not, I totally hear you. But there was, guys. There was absolutely a buzz. His segments rate came in literally between 6 to 9% every single time at a higher rate than other segments on the show. That's pretty massive. That's pretty huge, actually, for somebody that is never around, right? And so many people supposedly don't like. So there was that extra buzz. So Undertaker always looks at things much more business side of it. There was. I understand long gone are the days of President Jack Tunney stripping an individual of a title because they haven't defended in 30 days. That used to be the rule. Every 30 days, at least one. I understand those days are done. But I do feel there had to be more to this title reign than just 2 matchups in 9 months. There had to be, guys. You can't throw a title on them and just go, we'll wing it day by day. Maybe you can have a match or two, and then we'll take it from you. And that match or two is almost the better part of a year. 3/4 of a year. So I totally see why fans, BC included, man. I was like, I like Logan Paul in WWE. I see the benefit. He does bring that buzz. There's an atmosphere where you kind of have to put the remote down. Whether you like Paul or not, you kind of got to put the remote down because something big's happening, right? It's going to be pretty cool. It's going to be pretty special, more than likely. But I was right there saying, like, you got to take the title from him. That's not benefiting anybody anymore. But I do also see where Undertaker's coming from. There was relevancy to it. But the lack of being there actually, like, it made people frown upon the U.S. title as well. So I hope I hope fans can see where the Undertaker is coming from, but I also hope that the Undertaker sees why fans are like, no, bro. Like, I understand the business side of it. It's still, you can't do that. Yeah, you already had Roman barely showing up with his title for 3 years. But you can't do that with Gunther's going to do that with his title. More than likely, he's not going to wrestle a lot. And by the way, I've always said this. I'm an advocate for not always wrestling, especially with a title. It's going to make you feel and be more special. Perception is reality. When you show up, it's a spectacle. Brock Lesnar, still to this day, when you hear his music, you know something big is going down because he's an attraction. He's a spectacle, right? You can put him in all these exhibition matches, basically. Don't even have to be for titles, and you know it's special. Right? You can do that with somebody like Roman. He's become that. You can do that with a Gunther. And I think a lot of people are like, okay, Logan Paul, we have to draw the line. We can't start doing that with our IC title holders when the world title holders are doing the same thing. I hope that makes sense. It's becoming a lot of individuals trying to be that special attraction. And fans are starting to go, where are these titles? And the titles they do have, it's hot potato, like all the tag titles. I don't know, Undertaker catching that heat, but I can see it from both sides for sure. I want to wrap this up with the ratings real quick. SmackDown's rating coming in at 2.1, obviously not too good. That is the go-home show to SummerSlam this past Friday, 2.1. That's rough. Got some Olympics that were battling them too, so. But 2.1, and then Raw, 1.7. Now, I know on the surface you're like, oh, they're stuck. Like you always say, BC, 1.6, 1.7 is their top. But why that's not too bad, and I understand this was a post-SummerSlam show, and that's the reason they scored that 1.7. Because, guys, this was on Sci-Fi. I never give excuses. I don't like to throw mulligans when it comes to numbers, especially ratings. Right? You either put your best show forth or you don't, and you have to settle with the number that you brought in. I don't like excuses. But this was Sci-Fi. You're not on your normal network. And they pulled the rating that they usually pull. That's pretty damn good. And again, because it was a SummerSlam post show, that is the reasoning. And we know that because last week they were just over the, what were they, around 1.4, 1.5-ish? So SummerSlam definitely brought Sci-Fi's Raw that buzz. That's the good news. 1.7. And the fact that SummerSlam was so good enough people were like, I gotta see what happens next. You guys saw my live streams. I was calling this past Raw the most important of the year, more than WrestleMania, Go Home Show, and the Post-Mania show. This Monday Night Raw, this past Monday, it was way more important. So much was depending and riding on it because the landscape changed in that company Saturday night at SummerSlam. And now it's about what happens now. So a lot of people were thinking just like BC. This was such an important Raw. And even though it was on Sci-Fi, they pulled a 1-7. It's not a good number in the totality of ratings for Monday Night Raw. It's not. But they got to take that, run, and don't look back. Because it's solid for what they were up against. And if you're wondering, they beat the USA Network's Olympic coverage. They beat the channel that they were supposed to be. So they got DOS booted, and they ended up beating the USA Network. Now, I don't know if there was enough done on Monday night to keep that rolling. They'll be back on USA next Monday. That's the good news. So they should at least be able to get another 1-7. Hopefully they don't go down to a 1-6 or 1-5. I don't know if it was enough to build to go to a 1-8, 1-9 next week. But that's the numbers talk. Just throwing it out to you. 2-1 for SmackDown, 1-7 Monday Night Raw. Pretty much consistent with the low ends of what they've been getting. That's what I got for you guys, man. I told you there was a lot. The coffee was flowing, so there was a lot of good discussion with the news, attached to the news. So hopefully you guys rock out the rest of the day and week. Stay subscribed, notified, obviously, whenever there's big news breaking or when BC has the time, more uploads, and maybe even pop up live streams. That's why you always want to make sure you're subbed and notified. Smash that up. Hopefully you already did it on the way in, but on the way out for sure. Smash that up. Help out that algorithm. Let BC know you are amplified. And until next time, and there will be that next time, top guys, we're out. BC in the unit saying check you.